Our 10th National Conference has the theme of paradigm shift in business and management, emerging trends and competitive strategies. I now invite Dr. Varsha Bihare Ma'am, Associate Professor and Head of Research Cell, to brief us about the theme of this conference.
The capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill. The willingness to learn is a choice. On that note, good morning, respected dignitaries, my esteemed colleagues, and my dear students. I welcome you all to the 10th National Conference, Abhinavan 2022, organized by Indira School of Business Studies, PGK. Being the head of research cell, I often encountered questions like, how should I begin my research? What should be the objective of research paper? Many times I have seen people struggling with the basic understanding of the research. And trust me, no activity or workshop can teach you research in one go. It is a continuous and ongoing process. Research is to see what everybody else has seen and think what nobody else has thought. And to do so, you are required to be critical thinker and brilliant analyst. After a lot of brainstorming and discussions, this time we decided the theme of the conference, paradigm shift in business management, emerging trends and competitive strategies. Therefore, this conference aimed to bring together the best academicians, business executives, research scholars and students from universities and institutions all over the nation and the industry to share their standpoints, new philosophies, and research findings on all the areas of business and management. In the last 3 years, we have been witnessing paradigm shift in every area, right from the local business to the global, and we receive immutable response from the contributors, from faculty members as well as students. The faculty is the principal driver of change through their direct involvement in every aspect of the history, academics, governance, research, and consultancy. They combine the very highest standards of teaching and mentoring with diverse backgrounds as independent entrepreneurs, policy makers, researchers, theoreticians, and consultants. The rich diversity of their backgrounds installed in students the continuous desire to achieve excellence, and I would also like to present this with proud that we at ISBS PTM are making progress and achieving milestones together. Our faculty members and students have published around 100 research papers in ABDCs, Opus, Web of Science, international and national journals. You can learn new things at any time in your life if you are willing to be a beginner. If you actually learn to like being a beginner, the whole world opens to you. So ladies and gentlemen, let us open ourselves to learn and grow. This is just a beginning. I'm definitely sure that this conference will be a great learning experience for each one of us. Thank you so much.
Recording in progress.
Someone who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Now, I dearly invite Dr. Kumendra Raheja Sir, Director in Charge, ISBS PGM, to please address our audience.
Sorry to be technological good morning. The good part is that we have a small auditorium and we got a lot of voices. All the voices that were shut down for almost 2 years, and I'm sure they were loud enough for everyone to hear. A great opportunity for us to exercise our vocal cords and make sure that they're working well, because we have got hectic days ahead, I'm sure. On the onset, a very good morning and a warm welcome to all my faculty, colleagues, and students present here today on the occasion of 10th National Conference organized by Institute of Business Studies. I'm really, very delighted to tell you that we started off in the last 2 months and physically, open physically for that matter. We into, I was telling my guests that we're into the event friendly for that matter. Almost last 1.5 months has gone into see the confluence of industry academia on campus, deliberating on multiple issues, multiple topics, and being able to go through these events in a manner like Pro does, and like an institution being almost around for more than 1.5 decades. And I must say that each individual in this institution is capable to handle all those vagaries, those last-minute uncertainties, like the one that has kind of showed us today. And as a team, I think we'll work wonders through all these events and delivered fantastic events all across. So that deserves a round of applause for everybody. Special thanks to Dr. Aditya Linger, Director, School of Technology, SPPU, to have accepted our invitation to be the chief guest of this occasion. I also thank Mr. Sumet Gupta, an old friend of mine, Senior Manager Business Standard, Mr. Ashish Anand, CEO and founder, World FinTech. Had very good interaction with him. I'm sure he's going to add a lot of value when he comes and shares his insights and thoughts with people. Mr. Sushant Kumar, HR Manager, University Relations and Campus Recruitment, Startup Technologies, who have accepted to be the keynote speaker for the occasion. It's a pleasure to have you all with us. Thank you so much. On this occasion, if you see, we're all completely online. When we go to our WhatsApp, the moment we see a status as online, we're very happy that okay, I'm going to talk to this guy because this guy is online. But I'm going to state something to the contrary. I'm very happy that our status has changed from online to offline. Really, very happy about it. Believe me. It's a pleasure to see a campus hubbers with the students that unfiltered energy. Believe me, the last 2 years have been sitting in front of those cameras, sitting in front of those screens, was making me bored, making you bored. But believe me, once you're back at the campus, it's a great energy out there, right? And the learning is back in the physical classrooms. And I think you all might think that it remains so. The theme of the conference, Paradigm Shift in Business Management, Emerging Trends and Competitive Strategies, is so apt, as I'm sure last 2 years have been instrumental in accelerating the pace of change in not only the way businesses are conducted, but also the way we conduct ourselves personally and professionally. Now, since the theme revolves around the business, I'll stick to the private. At this juncture, I'm reminded of the 9th edition of the conference, which was based on entrepreneurship and innovation, and that was the basis of our discussion this morning. Yes. It is heartening to read a report of Economic Survey 2022, which just quotes certain data, according to which startups in India have grown remarkably over the last 6 years, and the numbers are mind-boggling. The number of new recognized startups has increased. Mind these numbers, increased to over 14,000 in 2021-22 from only 733 in the year 2016-17. So in the last almost about 5 to 6 years, there has been huge jump by all means, isn't it? The report also states that India has become the 3rd largest startup ecosystem in the world after the US and China. See, we are a third world country. I think just about a decade ago, we were always spoken the same breath for every growing economy, emerging economy, and third world country. Today, we're just behind 2 major powerhouses in the world, that is US and China. A record 44 Indian startups achieved the unicorn status in 2021, taking the overall tally of startups to almost 83. Now, you must be wondering, why am I talking about all this? We're talking about paradigm shift today, and all of a sudden I'm rolling out the figures related to entrepreneurship. But there is a reason why I'm saying that. Lies in the very fact that such multifold increase in the entrepreneurial venture numbers cannot happen unless there is shift in paradigm. I'm sure we agree. There is a shift in paradigm in all spheres of business, be it policy framework, political will, market maturity, technology, consumers, customers, financial ecosystem, innovative ecosystem, research and development ecosystem, go-to-market ease and pace, last mile reach, and last but not the least, society and culture. So welcome to the world of paradigm shift. This paradigm has been shifting much faster in the last almost 2 years than it has done in the last almost a decade. Now, allow me to enumerate some of the prominent changes that have taken place in the business in the last decade. I'm just going to take you through this very quickly. One of the most important changes that has happened in our lives as social media has changed the way we live. I'm sure you all agree with that. The social media is now become the backbone of communication between individual to individual, between organizations to organizations, between organizations to individuals. So that is one of the change that has happened. In fact, figures tell me that in 2010 we were only approximately 9.7 million users. As of date, in 2019-20, that figure has reached to almost 2.8 billion. Right. So when we say 2.8 billion, which is almost about 30% of the overall population on this mother earth, so you can understand 30 to 40% population is using social media for some of the other forms of communication. I know it might sound cliche, technology has been at the bedrock of all the changes that have happened around that, most of the changes that have happened around that. So technological innovation drives business growth. In 2007, Microsoft was the only tech organization among the top 10 biggest companies in the world. In 2017, almost half are tech organizations. So that shows and goes along with establish that technology is at the bedrock of business growth. Migration to cloud. Well, I'm sure you all now know cloud. Nobody refers to cloud as a cloud that is seen only in the mountain. We all know what we're talking about when we say cloud, right? So cloud technology is only about 2 decades old, but 97% of organizations are using cloud for some of the other things today. Blogging in essence is an essential form of business communication besides social media. Blogging is not one way. I mean, there is social media, there are other forms of communication, but the organization is stuck to blogging as one of the most traditional. In fact, blogging is almost 4 decades old as a tool, but today it has become one of the most accepted forms of communications across. Outsources has become a business strategy. Most of the organizations today find that they may not be in a position to work, so we can switch the surface of that. That is better. As technology advances, the demand for innovation increases. The number of departments necessary to run a company, as well as the skill sets and specializations required, continue to expand. And this has led to shortage of skill, manpower, trained manpower. And hence, we all hear a new word that has emerged in the last almost a decade. Can you tell me what that word is all about? It's called para-economy, it's called gig economy, right? So freelancers are out there, they're not working for one organization. I think your generation is more accustomed to this form of working where you acquire skills and you tend to give your skills not only to one organization, but multiple organizations. So outsourcing has become a business strategy today. It was one of the back-end norm to resort to when you actually lack the talent. Today it has come along with to be accepted as a strategy. But we are all global and multicultural. I cannot overemphasize this fact today when I was talking to Sumet. I think Asia talent acquisition, Asia Pac for almost for the entire organization like Tata Technologies. I'm sure he's coming in touch with multiple people from various continents across the globe. Today we are more more global and multicultural in the way we conduct ourselves. The Internet of Things is only getting better. I can't overemphasize this as well. Today, my entire life has converged onto a small screen that I hold in my pocket. I mean, a phone that used to be a humble phone about a decade ago has become the only forum of activities that we do on a daily basis, right from ordering our stuff to doing our banking transactions and do a lot of that. Data analytics are pivotal. If you read the journals and business magazines, you're seeing big data stream across all the headlines. The use and the internet, the use and interest in compiling data about ourselves and our target markets has changed the way business works. Companies utilize data to identify what their target markets are up to, what they're looking for, and what their challenges are. As we go ahead, compiling the data is no longer a challenge. Today, compiling data is no longer a challenge. The big difference lies in the ability to use the information to produce a corporate differential and draw a meaningful conclusion. And I forgot to change the actionable insights to stay on top of market trends. And this has given rise to yet another very powerful change in the form of use of artificial intelligence. AI has a unique ability to extract meaning from data when you can define what the answer looks like, but not how to get there. AI can amplify human capabilities and turn exponentially growing data into insight, action, and value. Well, one of the cornerstones of these changes is research. And it is on to the educational institute like ours to continuously engage with all the stakeholders and bring about new knowledge instrumental in causing change, in causing these changes, and provide tools to handle such fast-paced changes. Well, the experts that we have today are from field of technology, marketing, finance, and human resources. And I'm very sure that they will share very insightful perspective on shifting paradigms in their own domains. So, without further ado, I hand over the podium back to Shaman to take the proceedings ahead. So, I once again welcome you all and thank you so much.
It's always a delight to listen to you. Now, I would request Dr. Indira sir and Dr. Pune ma'am to kindly felicitate our guests. Our chief guest for today, Dr. Abhinavan, Director, School of Technology, SPPU. I now request you to please felicitate Mr. Ashish Anand, CEO and founder, World. Sumet Gupta, Senior Manager, Advertising, Corporate and Retail Sales Business Center. Mr. Shant Kumar, HR Manager, University Relations and Campus Recruitment, Tata Technologies Limited. Thank you. Now, extremely honored to introduce our chief guest today, Dr. Abhinavan. He is presently the Director, Professor, and Head of Department, School of Technology, SPPU. He is associated as an adjunct professor with COEP Pune. He is a research associate with Clarkson University, New York, USA, and also is on the advisory committee of many national and international universities. In his area of expertise, he has received numerous awards: IEI Scientist of the Year 2011, Sir C.V. Raman Award 2015 from Chief Minister of Maharashtra, VK Job Award of SPPU are just a few of them. His research activities have attracted funds from various national and international agencies like RUCRC, TFRC, RUSA, TDT, and DIT. Dr. Abhinavan is also a director of two startups, one based in India and the other in the USA. He has successfully generated funding from Rashtriya Uchchatar Shiksha Abhiyan, to form Special Purpose Vehicle and SPPU to promote and incubate business propositions into tangible forms to promote and nurture innovative research culture. I would like to invite Dr. Aditya Abhyankar to grace us with his knowledge on the topic research whereabouts. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Thank you. Otherwise, professors are so skeletal. We can
Exactly where you're coming from.
we can range from 2 minutes to 2 hours. Good morning. At the outset, I would like to join Professor Rajesh in expressing my delight. So lovely to see all of you, your faces. And this pandemic has taught us so many interesting things. And one of those is we cannot take things for granted. Even the opportunity to interact one-on-one was snatched up for last 2 odd years. And that's why it's so lovely to see all of you. It's wonderful to be amongst this office gathering. I take this opportunity and thank the organizers for inviting me as a chief guest to this 10th edition of this conference. I was part of this conference earlier as well, and it's an absolute privilege to be back again. And what I intend to do for next 18, 19 odd minutes is to speak my heart out. Although we have been talking so much about innovation, entrepreneurship, and now we have national education policy. So education was never so much open before. And so much is already in place. There are so many policies from state and central government. We have Stand Up India and Digital India, Make in India, and so on and so forth. And in spite of all of this, in my opinion, unless we understand one very crucial component, the rest of the effort may go futile. And I would like to give you one big example. In 2008, when Barack Obama became the president of the United States with a thumping majority, he announced a big package to support 100 brightest ideas in a developed and advanced country like the United States. You'll be surprised to know, out of these 100, all 100 ideas doomed. Not a single idea became a success story. And that's why, although we are saying startups and the complete ecosystem, the culture, we have to accept this with a pinch of salt. In fact, the feast of salt. And there is a reason as to why I am saying this. And that one crucial factor, which in my opinion is extremely important for us to understand, is research culture. And unless we really have that research culture in our academic institutes, it will be very difficult to create technologies which can sustain over time and build up that complete framework. We often talk about research in academic institutes, and Professor Bihari gave us a good account of how many publications and so on and so forth. So I'm not talking about that kind of research, which is a very academic research. What I'm talking about is a frame of mind, a bent of mind. And you might say, why talk about it? And is it really that important? And just to make you aware of how insensitive we have gone to this art of asking interesting questions. And we kind of get into this habit of copying each other so blindly that sometimes it really gets very tricky. And I always share this couple of teasers with my students just to convince them how insensitive we have gone to this art of asking searching questions, interesting questions. And in fact, these are the two questions that I used to ask as a small kid, never got satisfactory answers. The first question is connected with the concept of keeping time, and the second one is connected with the concept of space. And we know many giant scientists, they invested their whole lifetime working on time and space. So the first question I used to ask was, why do we get 60 seconds in a minute? And why 60 minutes in an hour? What is so special about 60? We all understand decimal system. So why not have 10 seconds in a minute and 10 minutes in an hour? What is so special about 60? And the second question was, why do we stumble upon with odd number of days in the month of February? Is it not really strange? In all other months, we get 30, 31, and suddenly in Feb, we get 28. If we are in a leap year, 29. Is it not really strange? And I work in the field of machine learning. So we write algorithms which are iterative. And we say iteration after iteration, the algorithm marches on towards the optimum solution. So there is this popular saying in English, march on towards your target. In army, they sing marching songs. They never say January on, do they? So let's play a game. Let's march to the first month of the new calendar system, and then April and May, and it continues. And as we are in the 7th month in Sanskrit, 7 is Sapta, and from that we get September. And 8 is Ashta, giving us October. And 9 is Navam, leading us to November. And 10 is Dasham, giving us December. And now Jan becomes 11th and Feb becomes the 12th and the last month of the system. So now it makes sense to have odd number of days in Feb, provided we start our calendar in March. And it makes a lot of sense because it's all about following the mother nature. In nature, you will start, the trees would start to blossom. In Marathi, we call it as Vasanta Ritu. And it's the beginning of new things. So it makes a lot of sense to start the new year by around March or April. And yet, not just bunch of us in this room, but the entire globe, the entire universe follows this logically illogical calendar. Is it not crazy? And the moment we get up, we are interested in figuring out what day and what date it is. And yet we don't raise this question that why this calendar is so logically illogical. What could be the reason? Keep thinking about it. If time permits, I will spill the pills towards the end of the session. But the larger point that I'm really trying to bring out is somewhere we have lost this art of asking interesting questions. And unless there are searching questions, that won't lead to very interesting research process. It's very important that students should be encouraged to ask questions. And we had that culture before the invasions. And unfortunately, the British education that we have imbibed as is rarely gives us opportunities to express ourselves and ask interesting questions. The very popular program that we run in schools is scholarship program. And do you know what is the dictionary meaning of a scholar? A person who is well read, Vyasangi. But that scholar person may not be, I'm saying may not be, you also could be, may not be a brilliant person, may not be an innovative person, may not be a person who wants to take risks and wants to step out of the group. It's very important to also give opportunities to students of this kind. Unfortunately, the educational pattern that we have imbibed from the British, and the British only wanted to create clerks. They never wanted to create thinking manpower. And if you actually rewind in your minds and go back to first standard, and remember what we did from first standard to 10th standard, we did exactly what our peers did. And for all crazy reasons, we get into different faculties for 11th and 12th. Predominantly, it is governed by our marks. And then for 11th and 12th, we do exactly what our peers do. I come from engineering background. After 12th, students, they get into various different branches of engineering, again for all crazy reasons, without really understanding what they're going to do for next 4 years. There was a student who was struggling, and he was in the 3rd year of computer engineering. And I asked him, why did you select computer engineering as a branch? And he said, Maja Ajiji Chowdhury. It was will and wish of my grandmother. All crazy reasons, students, they get into different academic programs. And then 4 years of engineering. Students do exactly what their peers do. Even the last year engineering project is shared in a group of 3 or 4 students. So right from first standard, let's forget about KG. I'm talking about end of engineering or end of BBA. 15 or 16 years of formal education without a single formal opportunity to be different, to be unique. And we are not asking for too much, are we? We all are born different. We all are born unique. We all are born original. We have unique faces, unique fingerprints, unique DNA pattern, unique voices, unique gait. There are 138 well-known biometric identifiers. We all are original. We all are limited editions. And yet, we get into this habit of copying each other so much so, it happens so subtly that we don't even realize that somewhere we lose that ability to ask interesting questions. And unless there is curiosity, unless there is inquisitiveness, nothing works. If you look at all our scriptures, they are in the form of dialogues. So Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjun. Very interesting questions were raised by Arjun, and that's why even more beautiful answers were given by Lord Krishna. You look at Chandogya Upanishad, it's a dialogue between Shvetaketu and Uddalaka. And that's because curiosity and inquisitiveness was the driving force. If you see the first Karika, Sankhya Karika, it says Dukkha Traya Vigata, Tadavigata Heto Jitnyasa. So there was that Jitnyasa. Unless we have students who are asking very interesting questions, there is absolutely no fun. And this happens to us so subtly. I'll give you just a couple of examples. In 2004, I came back from the US and the plane landed on Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus, Mumbai, and the first row gentleman wanted to go to the loo. So he stepped out of the aircraft and started walking, and people started walking behind him. And then he entered where he wanted to go, and almost 50-60 odd people that went behind him. And after going there, they realized that this is not the place they wanted to be. If you go abroad, no one follows anyone else. People will look out for signages, baggage claim, exit, and they will decide what they want to do. There was a drawing competition in Saraswat about 8-7 years back, and I had taken my niece for that competition. She was in 5th, 6th standard then. And it was a drawing competition, and the subject was not given beforehand. And on the spot, the organizers announced the subject to be patriotism. For first 5 odd minutes, students were just looking around, and then a student came up with a very typical ideation. He drew a tricolor flag, he showed 3 steps, and then he showed 2 Jawans giving the salute. I was just taking the stroll, and after half an hour or so, to my surprise, more than 98% of the students, they were drawing exact same picture. I'm not saying similar, same. 3 steps, not even a 4th or 5th step. Exactly 2 Jawans. And that's what happens because of the educational pattern. Sometimes my students, they say, sir, so what, we follow crazy calendar pattern. It's not doing any harm to us. So to convince my students more, I give them a couple of more quick examples. I will share those teasers also with you. See, if you see the capital of our state, it's Mumbai. And before the British came, it was at 3 different locations, Pune, Satara, and Kolhapur. Very brief period, it was also at Nagpur. And the British, they moved it to Mumbai because it was convenient. The most convenient mode of communication for them was through sea. And after they left, without even thinking about the consequences, we continued with Mumbai as our capital. And it's not even a place, bunch of islands. You have to construct bridges, artificially create land, and then build infrastructure on top of that. And we have invested crores and crores of rupees. I don't know, invested or vested. And after doing so much, 4 hours of rainfall of 4 inches, good enough to paralyze the city for 4 days, and everything goes on toss. So probably we did not have thinking manpower. If you go little down south, we had a great capital at Mysore, and then it got shifted to Bangalore, which is Bangalore. See, all giant cities, they are housed on banks of rivers. You have to have water, without which the city won't prosper. The only exception to this rule on this green planet is city of Bangalore. There is no river next to it. And there are 4 states fighting over Kaveri issue. Who is going to consume how much percentage of Kaveri? Had we got the thinking manpower, we would have shifted the capital back to Mysore, and that would have solved so many issues. Pune is so fortunate that we have confluence of 2 rivers, Mula and Mutha. कदाचित म्हणूनच पुणेकरांना मुळातच आडमुठे म्हणतात की काय कोणाला there must be something in that water. But you have to have water next to your city. And unless we have thinking manpower, unless we have students and professors with independent thinking, we won't be able to bring back that research culture in our academic institutes. What we used to have was Gurukul system. And jokingly I say what we have today is Kula Guru system. So it's 180 degrees out of phase. And sometimes we wonder, I mean, if you look at Abhijat Sangeet, the classical music, a disciple will go to a guru and learn one single rag, Bhairav or Yaman Kalyan, for 2, 3, 4 years. And sometimes we wonder, what kind of system is this? One single rag for those many years. It is not that rag that is taught to the disciple. It is the ability to learn, ability to unlearn, ability to relearn. So once the entire system is understood, the disciple can train himself or herself on any other system. It's important to bring back that kind of a culture. I was very fortunate. I was at MIT in 2000. Last one story and then I will stop. And MIT had an internship program. So I got an opportunity to work at Google. I went to Google and I'm talking about 2000. And I couldn't understand their business model. What I saw was a sprawling campus. And there were 70 odd buildings. Each building was 7-story. And there were human resources like you and me in just one of those buildings. Remaining 69 buildings, they had state-of-the-art servers and they were crunching the data in and out from across the globe. Trillions of dollars of investment. And what was the product that emerged out of Google as a company? Google.com, a platonic, harmless search engine. No pop-up advertisements. The contemporaries like Reddit and Yahoo and Hotmail, they were at least news disseminating portals. Google was a pure search engine right from day one. They did not also have Gmails in those days. And I could not figure out their business model. Trillions of dollars of investment. And the product, a free search engine for the entire mankind. So there were only 2 possibilities. A, these were saintly, godly people. They were sent for the upliftment of the mankind, which was obviously not the case. Or B, there was a very shrewd, very deep business plan that was not understood and envisaged by the rest, which was the fact. And if we really take a snapshot of what Google has done to us for the last 20 odd years, in 2000 there was a phenomenon Y2P, and people thought that computing is going to collapse. And Google announced that they are using grid computing. So if you are hosting your services on our platforms, it's all secure. And overnight, Google became very popular. In 2001, a very unfortunate incident took place. I don't know if you remember. 9/11, terrorist attacks and the Twin Towers were brought down. By the way, 9/11 was the same day in 1893 when Swami Vivekananda uttered his golden words in All Religion Assembly at Chicago, Sisters and Brothers of America. The same day, Twin Towers were brought down. And people were trying to search about it on Google and they could not find anything because Google was not fed live in 2001. Immediately in 2002, they introduced Google Live. In 2004, they introduced a very interesting concept, comprehensive search. So if you type in Aditya Abhinavan, you will get to know everything about me, my images, my videos, my research papers, comprehensive search. In 2006, they leveraged upon already existing concept of Internet of Things. 2008, semi-smart grid. 2010, intelligent frameworks. And finally, in 13-14, they announced that we are in an era of big data analytics. Data which is truly big in terms of volume, variety, velocity, and also the fourth P. And today, Google literally knows everything about every one of us. We all, almost all of us, use Gmail accounts, and all giant databases, they are connected to Google. Cheaptickets.com, yatra.com, book my show. Google knows where you stay, Google knows where you work, Google knows what route you take to go to your workplace every single day. We all use Google Maps. Google knows our buying patterns online. Google knows our banking preferences. Google knows what movies we would like to go to. Everything about us. And as a consequence of that, there is a concept called as SEO, search engine optimization, and they end up earning huge amount of revenue. If you're surfing casually and if you click on something, that ends up giving them revenue at the back end. And gone are the days when students, they used to ask their teachers, and peers, they used to ask their colleagues, and kids, they used to ask their parents. Now for all of us, our best friend is Google, so much so that it has become a verb. We say Google it. And in earlier days, if I open a new fabrication shop in Pune, we used to do Satyanarayan Puja. And one aspect was to do the puja. The second aspect was call all the friends and family members. So by word of mouth, many people will get to know that you have opened up a new facility. Now the modern e-Satyanarayan is search engine optimization. Forget about your friends and family members. Google should know that you have started a new fabrication shop. When people search best fabrication facility in Pune, Google should retrieve back your facility, and only then this world will get to know about it. And the Google entire framework was really ahead of time, and they could do this because we often talk about how school dropouts made it big. But Google is one example where two PhD scholars from Stanford, they started this venture. And that's why that reinforces back our faith in the educational system. You don't necessarily have to be a school dropout to make it big. And they could do this because they have the biggest R&D team in the unit. If we really want to have product companies in our country, it's important to bring back research culture. If I ask you, one of the fastest growing sectors in our country is IT sector. And if I ask you, which is the biggest IT company of Indian origin, what's the answer of this question? Infosys is second largest, Wipro is third largest, TCS is the largest, and TCS stands for not tea coffee snacks, as we jokingly say. It stands for, Tata Consultancy Services. And very openly we say we are into providing services. And from providing services to solutions, to tools, to frameworks, to applications, and finally to products, it's a long journey. Else and otherwise, we'll only keep providing services. At the max, we can create few applications. If you really want to produce products and create that ecosystem, eco-culture, so that the companies will sustain over decades, it's very important to bring back independent thinking. It's very important to bring back research culture in academia. And we don't get formal opportunities. So these are the platforms. Such kind of conferences, workshops, symposiums, these are the formally informal opportunities where we can meet like-minded researchers, we can meet like-minded professors, entrepreneurs, exchange ideas, exchange thoughts, and this is the best way to get started. In research, no question is a stupid question. And that's why they say the accidents are bound to happen, but one has to walk the path first. I'm sure that this conference will give you that opportunity to discuss your opportunities and ideas with like-minded researchers, and you'll start seeing your path. Once you start seeing your path, will start walking it, and then many sweet scientific and technological accidents are then bound to happen. Happy researching. Thank you so very much. All the very best for this one. Thank you.
Questions, please.
Interesting, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
Good morning, sir. My name is Anva Das. Thank you for sharing. Your information regarding research. So my question is, what does double blind mean, and why is this important?
So first of all, yeah, please have a seat. This is a very formal session. First of all, thank you for asking the question. Second, sorry, I was a little ashamed of overstepping my time, and that's why I rushed back to my seat without asking for any possible questions. And thank you for asking that question. So double blind essentially means it is blinded from both ends. So it's a very interesting technique, and if you want to know the source, it started in signal processing actually. So it's called as blind source separator, a very interesting technique to separate out sources from both the ends. And it started with BSS, and it's a pattern recognition phenomena if you want to understand it technically, wherein if the posteriors are completely independent of the priors, then your class definitions are completely statistically mutually independent. So that's what the blindness essentially indicates, the complete independence statistically from both the ends. And then you have multiple very interesting applications. So probably one of the keynote speakers is going to talk on blockchain because he has expertise in that. And in blockchain, we use double fold a lot these days to ensure the security. So probably sir can enlighten you more. But it's a very interesting concept wherein the posteriors are made completely independent of the class priors, just to make sure that both the ends are tightly secured. Hope that answers that question. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, please. Morning.
So thank you for the session, as it was so informative and interesting. And my question is, I want your suggestion, like what we can do in our SIPs, like what quality research we can do in our SIPs.
Like I said, sky is the limit. But what is really important is to understand the meaning of research, understand the crux and the soul of research. Research essentially means not accepting anything blindly, stepping out of your comfort zone, without which the learning will not happen. And once that happens, then you will enter in the ocean of research, and then you can do whatever that you intend to. But the most important thing is to not accept anything blindly. Challenge your wit, ask interesting, searching questions. See, one important thing which many times gets completely missed is opportunities to make mistakes. You will not learn in success stories. You will learn only in mistakes. And in Marathi, there is a popular saying, we say, "Apayashhi yashachi पहिली पायरी." Failure is the first step towards success. But the corollary of this theorem is, दूसरा अपयश ही यशाची दूसरी पायरी असते. The second failure is never the second step towards success. It's very important to learn from that failure and then provide that feedback into the system. Make those adjustments, do the tweaking, and make sure that you won't repeat that mistake. So step out of the comfort zone, ask searching questions, commit mistakes. Very important. Make mistakes, no problem. It's important to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and then sky's the limit, as I said. Thank you. Thanks for that question.
I'm sure world is still. have it, I'm sure the server is not closing it at all. So it would still-
Sure. So 60 is a very special number. And when you have a system with a base with 60 as a number, it's called as hexagonal system. And that's why the triangles are the most prominent geometrical shape for solving many interesting proofs. For example, why Earth is round. You can solve it geometrically using triangles. And 60 plays a very important role because 60 can give you all 360 degrees, all the angles giving you 180. And that's why 60 plays very important role. And that's why 60. And in around 1927-28, after the first World War, there was a meeting in Geneva to recalibrate whether we should keep it 60 or we should change it to something else. And there is a beautiful documentation. It's called as Geneva Doc. If you get time, please read about it. It spells out the importance of hexagonal systems. By the way, this was the system that was used by Copernicus for solving that very important, very interesting geometrical proof to prove that Earth is round. And this lemma was based on Rabi's lemma, and Rabi's lemma was based on what was proposed in Aryabhati. So it's a very interesting trail of sequences, but 60 is a very important system, and that's why it makes a lot of sense to have 60 seconds in a minute. It's a very deep document. If you get time, please go through that as well. Wonderful interacting with all of you. Again, just can't thank you enough. It's so lovely to see the faces in person. And otherwise, I was about to say, let me turn on my camera. Let me turn on my mic. Am I audible? Can you see me? And blah, blah. But thank you so very much for having me today. Pleasure. So much.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, let me now introduce you all to our next speaker, Mr. Ashish Anand, CEO and co-founder, World FinTech. By profession, he is a chartered accountant running India's only blockchain fintech platform. He has more than 15 years of experience in the domain of finance. He is also the CEO of Brew Finance, co-founder and CEO of Blockchain Advisory Council, founder CEO of Credit Mart, and founder consultant of FinEdge 2. Mr. Anand has been awarded with many digital awards across the globe. World FinTech was felicitated at Technology Awards from Banking Frontiers and Innovation and FinTech Award at Convergence India 2021. I now request Mr. Ashish Anand to please share his views with us on the topic blockchain, from enterprise governance to ecosystem governance. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Hi everyone, and to talk about this topic, which has been quite a lot of gaining popularity a lot, especially in last 1 year in Indian ecosystem. We have seen a lot of buzzword being created around blockchain. But before that, I would like to go to Sir's thing. Original question. Are we asking that? So before I move, we will come back to the question part of it. How many people here are aware of blockchain? How many of them have heard? I think it's a bit much more. No? All right. And how many of you have heard of cryptocurrencies? I mean, this is surprising. Cryptocurrency numbers are higher and the blockchain number is lower. Cryptocurrencies run on blockchain. Blockchain is the technology which powers any cryptocurrency. And cryptocurrencies are not very old phenomena, they are just 10-year-old phenomena, right? And there was a guy or a girl or a group of persons, we don't know who he was, who asked one simple question that what is money? Can someone answer that? What is money? I mean, I'm sure I'm in a class of a medium of exchange. Yes, of course, there is a medium of exchange. And there are others also which economists say, like there should be other properties like account and sort of value, etc. But essentially, money started as a medium of exchange. And so this gentleman said, or gentlewoman said, or the person said, that why a state should issue currency? I and you want to transact, right? I and you should be able to decide what is money. Why a government, why a state should issue currency? Why there should be a control of a central party on our monetary life? And that gave birth to, of course, it built upon a lot of technologies which were earlier present. This question was asked by many. This question was tried to be solved by many, but he was able to solve. Satoshi Nakamoto was his name. Pseudonym, actually speaking. There is nobody with that name so far we know. So the question was that why we need a state, country, we should currency should be global, it can be exchanged. Why there should be so many currencies? It can be issued by anybody. And then he was able to bring certain technology solutions which had existed for 20, 30 years, put them together and get here to the first cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. And that's where he used the technology called blockchain. That becomes important to understand. I mean, that's what Sir said, that it is very important to understand the power of question. So blockchain after that has been applied to several areas. Cryptocurrency was the first and most important application. So important that two nation states went to war 3 weeks back. Or is it 4 weeks back now? And one nation state said, hey, you know, we don't have money. And by the time the guys on whose support we are counting will give us money. And then there are a number of places where the banks are not operating because they are being shared. We need some people to give us some money. By the time United Nations could give them money, before that, tens of millions of dollars were released in the wallet of that particular nation state. So you see that how the paradigm shift has happened. The nation state is not getting the money from, I mean, it got that, but it took some time from the friendly state, from the most powerful currency of the world, but is rather had to depend upon people's willingness to support that country, whether good or bad, that's a separate part, using something which has not been created by a state, a government, or an association of government. But that's the power of cryptocurrency, that's the power of blockchain. And the same power we are actually seeing now wherever you apply blockchain. What is power? Can anybody name that what's this power actually speaking? So it's the power of decentralization. What cryptocurrency did, right? What Bitcoin did, it removed the central entity, the state, from the equation altogether. Several people, bunch of people, some technology providers decided hand and said that, joint hand and said that we will create an ecosystem where currency will come out of our joint efforts. And we will make the system so strong that nation states like China, nation states like Russia, or nation states like some other smaller countries as well, can try to ban us, we will not get banned. And that has been proven. China banned Bitcoin so many times. And recently, last year, all the mining power that supports creation of Bitcoin, because you need a lot of mining power, actually computing power, moved. It moved from China to Asia, it moved from China to Europe, it moved from China to US, and we are back to the same level of network security. that's the power which has come in last 10 years by asking one single question: why we need centralized entities? And I would say, in my mind, it is equivalent to 1789. So 1789 is all of Basset in France, and which is actually the time when we can say that monarchy started giving way to democracy. Another decentralized approach, centralization to decentralization in governance ecosystem happened. The seeds were sown largely in 1789, and that's what was sown here in 2009 by Satoshi. So we will talk about that, but because it's a class of MBA students, PGD students, and we are talking about paradigm shifts that are taking place. So I will talk about how that shift is happening in the business world with the application of blockchain, whether it is in business world or whether it is in non-business world. So I would skip these parts. So let's talk about technically that how systems have evolved. So we talked about centralization and decentralization. You can think of centralization as monarchy. There is a king, and there are everybody who listens to has to follow the orders of the king. That is your server in server computing technology. We can even skip this one. But what happens in decentralized ecosystem? Everybody has to listen to everyone. Maybe you will tell them that, okay, we are too big a country, can't be governed directly. So we will allocate 543 people who will govern us, but for 5 years. We have given the power only for 5 years. After 5 years, we will throw you out if you don't listen to us, the people. This is the thing that decentralized systems listen to, talk to each other without having a centralized entity. And that's the differentiator in technology terms, but that's the differentiator between centralized and decentralized entities. And we will see that how it is going to change, how we have think of corporate governance and how we have thought of corporate structure system. I will skip this part. It's an interesting video of how blockchain works, but we will display here. Do we have a connection?
When I was a student, I'd write long essays that I'd work on for days, but now I'm writing.
When you want to buy something normally, using your normal bank card, this is what happens. I give my card details to the shop. The shop asks the bank if I'm good for the money. The bank checks its records to see if I've got enough in my account. If I do, it lets the shop know. It updates its records to show the movement of money from my account to the shops. But it takes a little time. Now, if you wanted to remove the bank from that system, who else would you trust to keep those records and not alter them or cheat in any way? I wouldn't trust you. I wouldn't trust you. In fact, I wouldn't trust any single person, but I might trust everyone. The idea is you don't have a central record of transactions. Instead, you distribute many, many copies of this ledger around the world. Each owner of each copy records every transaction. So, to buy something using cryptocurrency, I give the shop my details. The shop asks all the bookkeepers if I'm good for the money. The bookkeepers all check their records to see if I have enough. If I do, they tell the shop, and then all update their records to show the movement of money. So there's no way that a forged transaction can make it in. If I try to alter a ledger, it won't match all of the other copies. And it gets rejected. Oh, and one of them, at random, will be given a reward of some newly created cryptocurrency. This is how cryptocurrencies work. And remember, all of these bookkeepers, all of these ledgers, they're not actually people. They're computers. Lots of computers.
So, I think good now. So, can we go back to that notes? I think I handed over my, yeah. So, as I was saying, that essentially what we are talking about here is decentralization coming into place of centralization. As monarchy gave way to democracy, similarly, we are seeing something very important taking place right in front of our eyes, that things which were centralized, say for example, currency, and next will be corporate setups will change. Corporate setups have started changing. Some mentioned some time back about gig economy. Actually speaking, we are seeing more than that also. So what we saw in this particular video, we are talking about replacing the banks. It is very difficult to think today that we can replace the banks, but please understand banks are just a 500, 600-year-old phenomenon. Before that, the banking was actually conducted by the merchants themselves. And only in 1500 or so, in Italy, the organized banking sector started to emerge. Before that, Pune were issued by Mahajans of India and ordered by another Mahajans. So it was a group of decentralized group of people who were actually running banking ecosystem for thousands of years. So the same thing is happening at many places. And what it has done that you don't require to trust a third party. That's what the blockchain brings into picture. That's a major part of it. There are other parts of it which are very important, but this is the core of it. And that's where we see. So if we look at today's organizations, how they are, everything rotates around the center, which can be a large company, right? The suppliers have to please. The customers also are dependent upon this large company to actually speaking get whatever services they are getting, because most of the companies are running in monopoly or duopoly world. We all are such a fan of Google Baba that he gives all the answers. But what are the alternatives to Google? DuckDuckGo, Brave. We have not heard of those names also, right? So that is what has happened, that the monopolistic or duopolistic ecosystem has come up. And even the customer are actually dependent upon these companies. They, of course, they work through a set of employees, and shareholders typically are supposed to be owners of the company. But how many times we have seen that the shareholders have been able to, I mean, last few years when active shareholder mechanism become very commonplace, you have seen shareholders really able to force something, right? Typically, we have seen board of directors running the business through the CEO, and that is where a very important, I'm sure many of you must have read that in your class. Agency problem have come, right? That shareholders' interests may not be matching with the interests of the board or matching with the interests of the CEO, but because they are running the organizations, there will typically a spark. And this has created its own problems, right? With all due respect, monopolies are systems, even they have the capitalist ecosystem they are built upon. So that is where we see that the organizations will be moving towards more collaborative aspects. And that's where the blockchain is a technology which empowers that. For example, it was very difficult to create money without having blockchain ecosystem because it was difficult to coordinate so much of computing power and so thousands and lakhs of people together on a single system. But that is where we are seeing the world change. And this is the paradigm shift I want to talk about today. And how decentralized organizations will come up and where not only the board or the investors will have a stake into that, but each of us will have a stake into that. Today, I booked a taxi cab for coming from Mumbai to here. And I had booked last night, 7 o'clock was the expected departure time. At 7:01, I received a call from the driver that, sir, I will be taking half an hour more. And then I had no option but to ask for a request for another cab. I won't like to name, but we know that there are only 2 companies which provide taxi services in India. And most of us today don't like it. We have become heavily dependent upon them. But the cancellations, not even the drivers are happy, not even the customers are happy today for so many reasons. And why? Because none of us have a say into how the company should operate. And is it possible for us to have a say as customer, as suppliers? Yes, it is possible in a different setup. And that different setup is what is coming up nowadays. Let's talk about a blockchain ecosystem. So many cryptocurrency traders are here, so they must have heard about a lot of tokens other than Bitcoin and tokens. What the token economy has created, first of all, it's a decentralized, autonomous, both decentralized and autonomous. It's run by machine organizations. Where you see there are no board, there are no employees, but we have contributors. So you have gig economy now, but you are not dependent upon like a gig economy worker. I have to only drive a scooter for a particular agency or a particular startup or a particular company. I can provide 1 hour service for one company. I can provide 2 hours to some other company, and I can provide 3 hours to competitor on the first one. And that's what is happening today. That people across the globe have decided to join hands together, create organizations, and that has created trillions of dollars of worth of businesses. For example, Ethereum, the second, or the Bitcoin itself. There is no central decision maker in Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin can change, all its principles can change, its associated rules can change, but they can change only by the vote of people who are holding Bitcoin tokens. So that is the thing over here, that what we are saying that decentralized autonomous organizations work of that, which are run by contributors and where the token are distributed not only to investors. So it's shared. When we talk about traditional companies, we talk about shareholders, investors having shareholding rights. They get benefit of dividend. They have the governance rights as well, that they can provide vote about the direction of the company. But here, say for example, the taxi company I talked about, the drivers or the suppliers can become token holders because they're paid in the tokens of the organization. They are not paid in fiat money. Customers like us have to hold those tokens to receive the services or hold the tokens to make better services. If I hold more tokens, I have more stake in the direction of this company or this decentralized autonomous organization, and I get rewards for that, holding X number of tokens. Investors certainly hold. So whoever has a stake, so far what we saw in the previous three, that only the shareholders to a certain extent have a say in how the organizations run. But we are seeing in the DAO world that not only the people who are shareholders, but everybody who had a stake, whether it be a contributor, whether it be a supplier, whether it be a customer, investor, everybody has a power to run a show. And that power is done through direct voting. The voting rules are decided earlier, and after that, people can decide. Anybody cannot break up the position in a DAO. If I'm a DAO member, I can say, hey, all the drivers should be shown the drop location before they accept the ride, because we know that because they don't know where they have to go, they are not actually willing to come and they will cancel. And if enough votes are there, that will be changed. So that's the important part over here, that now are changing the world. Of course, this is happening largely in the cryptocurrency world, but we have phenomenal examples over there which have come up. We have banks created there. We talked about removing banks. In last 2 years, $250 billion worth of decentralized finance ecosystem has been created, which runs entirely on the system of machines. Anybody can come over there, put in their assets, typically digital assets, borrow money against that. Money is given by the machines. When you put money into the, it can act as a savings account as well, it can act as a fixed deposit as well. So that is what has happened, that we have actually started changing, and this phenomenon is really fast growing. In 2 years, $250 billion is not a small sum. Some people decided that there was one copy of United States Constitution being auctioned. In 7 days, people raised $40 million. They could not win. There was a reason for that, because everybody knew that they had $40 million. So the highest bidder went ahead and bid $41 million and won. But that is what the power was. That there was no, in 7 days, $40 million was accumulated. So this is what I was talking about. This change is taking place. And this change, let's go to one last slide and then I will stop. So this change is not only happening at the decentralized level, it is also happening in the centralized ecosystems where blockchain is coming into the picture. So we talked about centralized organization having like this, a structure where everybody is moving around that. Let's talk about blockchain structure in private organizations for the time being, and that's the last one. So what happens here? So if I talk about the blockchain implementation, we have implemented one here in Maharashtra, where we have government organizations providing warehouses. One provides technology, banks provide capital, and all of this is actually towards the benefit of the farmers of Maharashtra, farmers and the pensioners. So these entities, which are part of the blockchain, actually have devised the rules that how, and it's not a discretion of the bank, it's not a discretion of the warehouse, it's not a discretion. We provide the technological rails, but we are not the third party there. We are not taking the decisions over there. And that's how we see that the ecosystem level way will come. So if you talk about, say for example, we had softwares, then ERP came and it clubbed together all the softwares of different verticals in a company. Blockchain will become the ecosystem ERP. So for example, you will have telecom companies at one point. You will have, say for example, if we talk about blockchain for, blockchain for automobile companies. And because the defective or the parts which are stolen or parts which are duplicate made are very big problem. So all the European car makers have decided to join hands together. Who will have the bigger hand? Will it be banks, or it will be someone else or someone else? So that is where again the ecosystem plays creating a common pool resource use. And this is again what something we are seeing in the world of even private blockchain applications, that everything will be connected. There will be common pool resources between the enterprises, and they will be deciding how the world will operate, how the ecosystem organizations will also be moving from organization to ecosystem play instead of a system play. Decentralized autonomous organization, the ultimate goal, and it is working in many industries, but in some of the industries it will take some time to reach over there. But that is what about direct and indirect democracy? We have seen that in certain cases direct democracy works well, in certain cases indirect democracy, including representation works well. And that is what we will see over here. So in my opinion, this is what the paradigm shift say. And because the topic today was the changes and trends we are observing, I thought we talk about this. Thanks a lot once again for the institute for giving us this opportunity. If there is any question, I can take if the time permits.
The keynote speakers, all the dignitaries and faculty who joined. I'm Professor Prachi Abhinavan, faculty of ICS Engineering. Thank you so much for such an informative session. Definitely, our students will get to know about the blockchain technology. So my question to you is, how can blockchain technology be used to promote the financial inclusion?
Sure. So that is where I can mention that collaborative approach is important for financial inclusion. When we talk about financial inclusion in India, most of a large part of the population is underbanked. Thanks to the government efforts, the accounts are good, but the accounts are accounts, right? They are not financial transactions, so they are largely still underbanked. And it's important to have ecosystem approach to solve these problems. Nobody alone can solve this. And with the ecosystem approach, why it is important? Because supposedly we have a dictated policy to give loans. What happens that we start giving NPAs? Because someone is forced to give loan. At the same time, the borrowers are not actually educated enough that what are the pitfalls of taking this much of loan, and that happened in microfinance industry for them. So we believe that there are a lot of opportunities in financial inclusion. One aspect where we have worked for farmers in ecosystem finance. One more aspect where I am very, we talked about the Russia, the Ukraine thing and money movement. So remittances is something which I believe will be very important on blockchain. And in that, some of the technologies that the governments like, the smartphone decentralization, what they are doing, like CBDCs and all, they are very important. So I see remittances, I see lending in MSMEs as a very important aspect for financial inclusion. And whether some of the entities, including ourselves, are working towards creating an ecosystem of using leveraging crypto to get the money inflow from places where like Europe, US, etc., where the yield is very low. And here in India, so that I see now. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Anuma Das, and thank you for sharing information regarding blockchains. So my question is, whom we should sell the blockchain technology?
Whom we should sell the blockchain technology?
Yes.
Something I am still studying. It's the most pertinent question in this problem, that why blockchain has not seen the growth we see typically with other technologies, because there is not a single buyer of blockchain. As I mentioned, blockchain is an ecosystem play. You cannot sell it to one single entity. Say, for example, if you are creating something on remittance, you require people who will receive the remittance, you require entities who are facilitating remittances, you require wallet providers, you require money movement, and you require employers in different countries who are paying, transferring the money for their workers from one country to another country. How do you sell to them? So it becomes very difficult. You have to create an ecosystem, and it starts with ecosystem development. You cannot sell to a single entity. That's a major problem for blockchain, and especially for private blockchain. And that's why most of the growth we have seen in permissionless blockchain, where It's decentralized. I don't need to worry about about anyone, and I can start working. In the private blockchain space, it takes time to create ecosystem. But once you have done that, you have a large move. So I think it is important for us to invest into it. If you will have to invest maybe months, maybe years, but once you have invested that as a startup, you have a mode that nobody will be able to replicate for like foreseeable future. So difficult question to answer directly, but I mean that's how. So last question we will take, I believe.
Yeah, I think
No, last question.
What was?
Sir,
Might be not bad, I'll ask. Yes, sir, that my name is Rajesh. Okay. So my question is, there are two questions. One is fintech companies are adopting blockchain technology. Second is very specific, sir. In December, RBI permitted Paytm as a scheduled bank. So as a investor, I traded it. Now they are still giving to a security system and audit. So can we call this as a failure of regulator?
First question is that Indian fintechs have started looking at blockchain seriously. Actually speaking, ecosystem of Indian venture capitalists have started talking about Web3 last few months, 1 year or so. And that is actually changing the mindset of the companies which they have invested as well. So everybody is looking at blockchain from that perspective. Second, about the regulator's failure, I'm not my place to point fingers on that. Regulator may have given permission based upon the facts more at that point of time. And regulators have stopped Paytm to take deposits based upon certain facts which they take now. So in my opinion, it might have been difficulty in finding the facts. The best part is that they could found the fact. They did not swipe it into the cockpit and wait for the investor protection, which is important. Of course, the second part of it that the stakeholders have lost a lot of money because of that. So, so certainly, I mean, there is to a certain extent, yes, there is certain. It would have been much better than perhaps those audits should have taken place before the bank, I mean, started. So thanks once again, and thanks to the Institute for inviting.
Because of some time commitments, looks like Aditya has to leave. Before that happens, Joseph, may I please request you to felicitate Aditya sir with a citation as a token of our gratitude. And Dr. Abhinavan Gupta, our head of the department for PGDM General Programs.
So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Ashish sir. I am sure we all must have learned a lot from you today.
Let me now take this opportunity to introduce our next distinguished guest, Mr. Sumet Gupta. Sir is presently holding the position of Senior Regional Head of Maharashtra and Gujarat Business Development for one of the most respected financial daily, Business Standards Limited. He has been in the print industry for more than 2 decades, mainly working in areas like circulation, advertising, brand marketing, and product development. Mr. Gupta has won the Best Branch Award along with his team for achieving the advertisement sales target with Dainik Bhaskar. Sir is now leading various projects, including new additions and product launches. Please welcome on the dais Mr. Sumet Gupta, who will talk to us about the media paradigm shift.
Good afternoon. Hey, everybody had a breakfast or not? I see this man is saying, good afternoon. We need a spirit here, some kind of power. Okay, because paradigm has been changed. Now from home I don't get any power, because I have to give the power to the home. Okay, so when I picture, sir has given the breakfast, and when we came here, the system was not working. That is also a paradigm change. You have to accept the changes, and you have to move the show. Okay, so I'm from basically from media. So everybody knows that this pandemic last couple of years, the period which we have faced, we have learned lot many things from this 2 years. Our industry is also not any other industry. It's the same, because we are also surviving in the same pattern, same road. So basic themes which I just want to recall it is, earlier we used to have only communication, then the communication started through telephone, then it became a social media, then goes to digital, then goes to big data now, and then unfazed data. It's very important. Ambedkar sir and your director, my friend Rajesh sir, also talk about data and all that, Google and all. So I'm also going to have a same line. I'm going to talk on that same line. So my first this thing is what is the paradigm and what has been changed. So first I'm going to have a basic intro about the media and how it has been changed. So if you see this new traditional media, okay, it has been changed, a new relation and with the audience, with new language and with a new grammar. Grammar means what? That is the what text which you are typing on a mobile every day from morning to late night in the evening. Then the same has been adopted by the entrepreneurs, institute, administration, organizations, group, families, and others. And this has been source, the media has been source, now became the source also for everything. Like media earlier was only to publish news and it has reached to the customer. But now it has been changed, it has become a source also for the public. So whenever there is any kind of a news which we doesn't like, we always criticize, we always react on it. And then we might send a SMS or might send our opinion to that particular newspaper or editor also. After this, if you see the new pandemic has learned many things, that social blocks is started, personal blocks has been started, and this global process will understand the big shift from classical mass media model to the new media paradigm. So what is that paradigm which I'm going to talk about today is this is from audience to the user. Earlier it was when I'm talking about during 80s, okay. There was a satellite kind of a cable technology, and we used to get only Doordarshan kind of a thing, and we used to just depend on that particular thing. But after 90s, if you see, the internet often has been started, and we get a different kind of a narrowcasting point wise news and point kind of a messages. So communication process and actual scenario is used, certainized, and use have a control to choose to decide, to search and define the configures, to subscribe and unsubscribe, comment, and most important, to write talk about themselves, about themselves, if it doesn't like and all. Second, from media to content. And this is very important. Everybody knows Shekhar Gupta. Shekhar Gupta was a Indian Express ex-editor and CEO. Now, after his retirement, he started his own blogs and he started writing for Business Standard, Saka newspaper. He started from writing for writers also, and there are many companies which he write. But he writes for blogs for the people, and the people will read and they react on if they like or not. And he expected that also whatever they come. So media governors towards the digital reset media identify the shifting the platform to content an outstanding brand image in the relations to type content, not to a media format. Not in a media format. Earlier, when he used to write for Indian Express like that. So it has been changed. Next is monomedia to multimedia. You see, one of the strongest issue about the digitalization in that text, audio, video, everything is important nowadays. Okay, because of the Google, as Sir has mentioned. Google has, search the Google, you'll get everything. Okay, so in that you will get the text, you will get audio, you will get video also. So media is related to use the single language, that's textual, audio, visual, and tends to be erased. Online media, multimedia, and multimedia is a new language for youngsters. Okay, for us. The fourth, from periodicity to the real time. So this is the why what we lost in the road from periodicity to the real time is the reflection, and what we gain is dynamism and conventional style. This we gain from periodicity to real time. Next is from scenario to audience abundance. This is the overflow of the information calls for new skills and tools to manage the data, news, and opinion. Sixth is from distribution to the excess. So excess paradigm and complementary with the users center paradigm, and both explain the strong interactive nature of the new environment. That is what Sir has already briefed us, that my visit, then we go to the home page, then we go to the favorites, and this will be managed by Google. And whenever we try to interact or try to find out something new for us, okay, it will goes to Google, and where the Google will get that particular it will add it to that particular place, and thus they earn a good money out of it. Next is my from linear to hypertext. This is another important point. Hypertext actually narrative is the empower the user shifting and control of narrative from narrator to reader. And eight is from data to knowledge. This is another important point, because whatever data Google has, they are selling with the another company and they are earning the money from this. So the opportunity to redefine the profile and professional challenges and the dynamics training and the communicators, and also rethink the changing nature of media and mediators. So this is the 8 point where we have seen the lots of changes and how it is going to affect to my print media industry. This is the chart, which is very, very important. I've seen the growth of the Indian ad industry. Okay, 2020, 2021, 2022. If you see, okay, we had just 11.59%. But if you see the digital advertising industry, it has grown by 22.47%. So there's a growth, and it is going to be effect to, naturally, it's going to have effect on print media industry, basically. Next is, you can see the ad spend different with the different media, with a different industry, how they sold out. The television is 41%, digital media is 28%, print is 25%, third number. Earlier, 80s, 90s, till 2000, print media was in the number 1 positions. Before this television and electronic media will start. But 2000, when this Alpha Marathi, old people remember that when Z Marathi started, it started by the Alpha Marathi. And when Alpha Marathi comes, so most of the our advertising revenue has been shifted. And that time the people always talk about like print media will go up now because of the electronic media. 2 years, yes, it has been affected to print media, and we had lots of problems. We survived, we managed to survive that particular year, 91, 92. 93, again, the advertiser, the customer realized, yes, for immediate response, we cannot ignore to a print media industry, and the budget again slowly shifted. But whatever we used to get 100% budget, or that 20% budget or 30% budget has been shifted to electronic, and 70% remained to the print media industry. This is the way we were surviving, but now because of this paradigm change, we now reached the third number position. Others 3%, radio is 2.5, cinema is 0.5. But if you see the social media, that is ad spend on digital media, the social media is 29. When we talk about social media, that is Google, your Facebook and other companies. Online video, as you know, there are lots of apps which are available, which is also earning a money and which is also getting now, getting our advertising budget to them. Paid search, that is also another private thing. And display panel, where this the print media industry comes. Whether in this, if you say the ad spend in different media, we are on the number 3, but in digital point of view, because every newspaper have a digital version now available, like Times of India, Business Standard, Economic Times, everybody. So we are now here comes to number 4. Tough time to us to get the advertisement revenue. Okay, and others is 3. This is tomorrow's scenario. So planning to shift to e-commerce industry because it will be growing very fast. Because everybody says this 4,700 crores the e-commerce industry will gain, 40% gain. This shows in e-commerce industry. But if you see the ad spend in industry verticals, FMCG is 21%, e-commerce 17% out of it. Consumer durables is 10, telecom is 9, auto is 7, media and ENT is that is 5% only, retail is 3%, another is 23%. But if you see the major growth which has come from in e-commerce platform, so your future will be can have more options will be available in e-commerce industry, which is Amazon and all other companies. So these are the basic things which they show the paradigm change. In last couple of years, if you see the resource shows that 948% people who search for the video conference software in this pandemic situation, like Zoom meeting, Google Meet and all. Many people are working from remote place, many people are working from home, so they are searching for this. 134, they are searching digital signature online. Okay, this is basically happens at CEO level, top level, and 53% in search terms related to the internet and cloud security. Okay, so most of the people also work. So these these shows that the paradigm changes has been happening in print media also, and it has been affected to print media very badly. I can put it that way because last 30 years now, I completed 30 years in media industry, and that is also basically print. Little bit I worked with Alpha Marathi also channel for a couple of years in Bombay. So, but my main basic experience which I spent in the media industry, print media industry, so it has been affected 100% with us, and we are still surviving, we are still fighting. Okay, and hopefully, but after some time, okay, we'll have another good time for print media also in couple of years. So with this, I think I finished with talking, but thank you very much for calling me here and giving me a time to share my experience. Take some question answers quickly if you will. Yes.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable time and information. My question is how marketing research is adding value to media advertising.
Market research, media industry. See, every industry needs a research. Okay, research is always there, whether you go to any industry. That is the education, whether the FMCG, that is the print media. But related to the print media, yes, we need a good research people who can guide us what best we can give. Because nowadays, every day is a challenge for us. Every day the needs have been changes. Okay, and that's why we. This is my personal opinion. Yes, if there is a good researcher team, you can develop your product according to the need of the market. That is one. And since you have asked the same questions, for to promote this research, your SIP, somebody has the SIP question also earlier, speaker. So for summer internship program, okay, business standard, it has kept all India competition every year, where we have a prices of 1 lakh rupees, 50,000 rupees, 25,000 rupees. Fortunately, Mani sir ke wahan pe, there are two students have already won the prizes, 50,000 and 25,000. Couple of years back, I'm talking 4-5 years back, because I have been touch with Mani sir last 7-8 years. So it has been won. SIIT from Indira has won the couple of years with the prizes. So this year I'm expecting, as somebody has asked the question earlier to Abhinavan sir, and he responded to you that yes, you have to take your SIP very seriously because pan India we get somewhere 500 and more, research or SIP competition this thing. And from every college we take 1 or 2. Mari sir always request me to take a 2, so I take a 2 because they have a chunk of students, more students. So in that, a very important one, I give you tips, okay? The topic which was selected, whether it is related to the industry or not, the industry you are working for, that is one important. After that, the topic which when you understand the topic thoroughly or not, that is another important point which they check, the jury members. Third, after understanding the problem, what is your thought process? That is another important point which they check. After that, after your thoughts, what is your solution which you have provided to the industry? And after that, what benefit out of it the company has gained? These are 4-5 important points where you have to work on that. I'm 100% sure that you can compete into that because all India the competition overall frame is like that. We get 500 odd competition papers. Out of that, 5 will get a chance to present their SIP report in front of the all jury members in Bombay. And then out of that, we will be nominated as the first, second, third prize. Okay? So I'm expecting some this year from your college, okay, for this competition. Okay, so let's start our association and take it forward. This is my belief. Yeah. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. So first of all, thank you for your enlightening us with your knowledge. My question to you is, what is the impact of media advertisements on consumer behavior?
I do not get it. Please come again.
What is the impact of media advertisement on consumer behavior?
Consumer behavior. Okay. I'll give you an example of PG. Everybody knows PG in Pune, right? Yes. Pune. Saurabh, yeah. I will see Saurabh. Saurabh has always made the changes into his advertisement as per the festival moods. Okay. If it is a Diwali, he will have a colorful lady wearing a sari, having all kind of a gold and everything, and enjoying their Diwalis. So it creates an impact when you put that particular advertisement before that particular festival period starts. Goes on the kind of Eid and something like that. If you have a Salman Khan, that will become okay. So we try to correlate with that festival with the advertisement. So it will give more impact on to attract the consumer. So that to get more consumers inside that. That is the important thing which I can mention here. So 100%. Today, because of this pandemic situation, if you budget is very little as far as the advertising spend is concerned, it has been cut down always. So you have to be very, very crucial and to select your advertisement properly with your background, with your festival, the coming festival season and all. So it will be effective 100% to attract your business. Next. Anybody? Thank you very much for calling me and taking it.
Thank you for your insightful talk, sir. Now, I introduce you to our last speaker, Mr. Sushant Kumar, HR Manager at Tata Technologies. He is a seasoned recruitment manager with a history of working in the IT and service industry. He is skilled in vital, global talent acquisition, machine learning, and project plans. He has a proven track record of conceptualizing strategies, setting up operations for startups, establishing methodologies to increase revenues by setting up high-performance teams, reducing costs, and improving retention. He has worked across various geographies and is also a visiting faculty at top P schools like IIM Nagpur, IIM Bangalore, IIT Kanpur, and MIMS. With this, I take immense pleasure to invite Mr. Sushant Kumar to share his views on changing landscape of HR post new normal. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Good afternoon to one and all, and so thanks for having me here to talk about the paradigm shift we are having in the business and the emerging economies. And already a few of the other speakers talk about the technology, blockchain, how that is getting involved, and also from the print media and the digital media, how the paradigm shift is happening. But being from the HR industry or the faculty, I'll try to restrict myself towards the HR piece of it, and I'll try to keep it crisp as well. So I have a timer for that. So thanks. Get along with what are the changing landscapes of HR post pandemic or the new normal. We're talking about how we're going to take it ahead and what are the things we can expect in the HR landscapes. Okay, so as a future of HR, if you see probably for as a student for you, I'll be talking more about how the behavioral changes happening with the HR. Okay, so in the industry, if I talk about, we are really trying the organizations. Probably every organizations have to work towards their new values, their improving their own thoughts, and also how they are going to redefine their processes. Okay, so whatever the processes or the guidelines they used to follow, probably that needs to be altered and changed as the things are moving ahead. Okay, even if you see, if I talk about the organizations where I have worked primarily also with GE or with Tata here itself, more predominantly we both are where I mean organization wise, of course a structured organization, but with things now moving, we have to kind of change things in our processes, in our structure which were previously there. So that's how you have to beat the competition and you get to do better with your policies as well. Now, about the enabling changes, if you see in the HR function also, or how the involvement is happening, I've seen because I've worked also. There's been a lot of technology-driven approach getting towards the HR field also. So, in fact, when I started working in way back in 2012, since now it's almost a decade, I have seen a lot of growth in the technology space. In fact, in 2017, when I was in Malaysia, we were working on some of the AIs and the MLs of the world in the HR segment itself. How we are trying to improve there as well. So a lot of enhancement has happened in terms of smart recruiting or in terms of AI proctoring or and all this is helping us. I mean, in fact, the most disruption happened post the pandemic. I mean, the pre-pandemic era, post-pandemic era, if you talk about, there's been major shift. Okay, a lot of organizations were not ready to accept, but then because of this, you can see it's been the demanded situation. Organizations have to accept that. Okay, and then driving people transformation. If I talk about the third important point, so you have to have your organization strengths, people driving this. Okay, so you have to get that into their blood so that they can really work upon and get this inculcated as a culture in the organization. Okay, so because even if you see everything is hybrid right now, okay, and people are still working in phase where probably this might get long and we don't know what's next coming. In fact, in the morning we were talking about things again getting started with news from WHO. I don't know to comment on that, but then you see always there are situations where it is not always on your side, but then that's how you need to drive that. So probably with organizations also, they have to get their people confidence and then drive things. Okay. Now, if you see, I've already talked about these in detail also, like redefining the organization. It should be a human-centric culture. Agile methodologies, a lot of organizations are moving towards agile and nimble organization structure. Previously, you see there are a lot of flat structures in organizations, and with some of the organizations already which are process oriented, they are moving towards agile methodology. If you all are aware about agile, I hope you are. And then health and safety are the new priorities for every organization. Health is something which a lot of focus has been getting involved, be it their mental health or the physical health. Okay, and thanks to COVID for that matter. So the second point, yeah, because I mean, at least for the mental piece, also a lot of organizations were not really worried or keen on, but right now with these things, there's a lot of emphasis going on and a lot of work also going on with organizations. I do see, even in our organizations, I see there's a lot of events such which keeps on happening where we try and talk to people on regular basis, motivate them, keep them engaged in terms how are things are there, and not only in terms of work, but also in terms of the mental peace and all. Yeah, the second point I was talking about, the driving people transformation. Already, if you see any change to happen, you need to have some kind of rewards and recognition attached to that, so that that gets a push. Okay, always. So for getting the transformation, personal and reward schemes are they're already there, but then this is getting more enhanced. Another important point here is if you see about driving transformation is about the skill. Okay, now if you see post, I think 2020, a lot of edtech companies or a lot of companies since the digital disruption happened, a lot of even blockchain if you talk about for that matter, every organization is trying to get digitalized, and there's a lot of upskilling happening everywhere, and that's also the change that needs to be brought so that whatever skill sets is people are getting them equipped with, that's getting them to more and more enhance, so that whatever new technologies are coming, be it into fintech like blockchain, or if it's AI, AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality. Now people are talking about metaverse. Okay, a lot of companies have started working on metaverse. In fact, in one of the sessions I was there in Kolkata last week, one student talked to me about the metaverse. He's doing a project in metaverse. I was really shocked that okay, people have started really upskilling themselves, and he's doing a project also, and he wanted to support from our organization in terms of funding his metaverse project. Okay, like you can see the skilling part I was talking about. Okay, it's not that everybody has to do, but I'm just giving the reference, but it's happening in and around. Okay. Third point about is enabling changes. As everybody talked about the data, with the data itself, we are able to get the insights, and based on that insights, we get a recommendation. Okay. So I can talk about that a lot because I'm a master's in business analytics and decision science. So I have worked a lot on data and how the data, even in HR we work, we emphasize on a lot of data while we work on adaptations, the human behaviors and other patterns recognition and all. So in fact, this year I was working for some of the forecasts. So my boss said, why did we think about the forecast? Why did we think about the other aspects of that also, which could be about more into the ambitions, how do we overcome that? So that also could be gathered. Then we worked on the data, and then we came out with a conclusion. Okay, so that is we saw previous history data, and then based on that data, we concluded, okay, this year also that we might expect certain number of attritions happening as per the previous data set. So we did some kind of forecasting technique, and then we reached to a conclusion there. Okay, and that's how the number also shifted for us there. So that's how data-driven decision making is something that people are looking at. Be it in any segment, I talked about it, be it into e-commerce, marketing, fintech, or everything is on data. Okay, next, modern tech and enablement, sourcing and recruitment, which I already talked about. There's a lot of AI, ML already involved by in terms of interviews and the hiring processes involved. Like even last year, if you see, most of the organizations ran on virtual hiring processes. Okay, nobody did physical campuses, but still people were equipped with the technology, so there are a lot of doctorate screen available. People are not able to do anything. There's a lot of AIs which is trying to filter and match your results with whatever you're given, and then immediately you should get the results as well. So that for that matters. Okay. And if you see the changes to get about, it's all about digital now, not tomorrow. Okay, there's not something which should come. Already we are in the era where we see everything getting digitalized. Okay, so that's why you would have seen a lot of spike in various organizations. I've been talking a lot about this last 2 years. If you see, every organization wants to become a digital organization. Okay. I was talking to someone in one of the colleges where I don't remember, maybe it was in Bhopal or Bhubaneswar somewhere. So he was saying, if you see, every organization is trying to become digital. Even a real estate company is trying to get digitalized. So they need people who are tech savvy. Okay. So that's why you might have seen a lot of spike in growth this year in the tech space. Okay, be any tech space that I'm talking about. Next, if you see the post-COVID challenges could be faced by organizations, and this is something which we are really seeing. I do read a lot of posts on social media, on LinkedIn or on Facebook. There are a lot of groups where people talk about the hybrid mode or coming back to offices. People are not really very enthusiastic and very happy also about it. They write it. I mean, people are writing very bluntly all over the social media about how and that. So these are some of the challenges which is there with the HR faculty. I mean, team people to say to get back to people in terms of how we can get them back to their offices. And also while doing this, we need to also, in terms of think how things really work, and there is no kind of disparity between the employees towards this, and that's why a lot of organizations, if you see, they're still working on the hybrid mode. Okay, and this could be a challenge which organization has to face and probably has to overcome. How they do it is something which will depend on organization to organization level. Now, the post-COVID challenges, if you see, could be faced by different leaders. If I'm talking about a leader, is somebody who is the managers. If I talk about in their organizations, they have to respond, recover, and thrive. Okay, they need to work on these 3 things as an organization. How the organization deals with the present situation and manage that continuity towards the next thing. How they recover with whatever has happened, and they learn and emerge stronger. Thrive as in prepares for the shapes the new normal. So they need to be ready how the new normal is progressing for them. The workforce strategies, if I talk about, is basically purpose, potential, perspective. These are the 3 important things. You need to realize that recovery won't be static. It will not occur in a specific date. It will take time. Okay, slowly things will get better and better. That's what we are expecting. So for that, there should be 3 different strategies which we need to follow. One is about the purpose, potential, and perspective. Okay, so talking about the purpose, this is talking about the well-being and contribution of individuals, which I was also emphasizing a few minutes back, that it's not only about individuals' work, but it's also about their well-being and contributions in the organization's mission and work. So they should be open towards that. The potential for what can be achieved by individuals and teams and perspective. It should be a focused approach towards moving towards the future. Okay, so these are the different strategies which every organization or leaders will have to take in order to enhance their workforce. And these are the 5 critical actions which I would suggest probably as a pattern within the HR, which is reflect, recommit, re-engage, rethink, and reboot. Okay, so if you see, I'll go from the down. If you see, bottom top-down approach, if you take bottom-up approach, if you take on reflect what has worked and what has been learned is something which needs to be pondered upon. Okay, recommit is something for workforces. They need to commit that through a physical or financial or psychological modes at home or in the workplaces. They need to be ready for that. Re-engage. Always the workforce which is there, their contribution and potential for the growth needs to be re-engaged by the HR teams through different forums, through different employee engagements, and keeping them always engaged. Rethink workforces and workplaces, how the workplaces should look like, what kind of parameters should be there, which was earlier there, and what kind of new changes they need to have at the workplace, whether it is in terms of safety, whether it is in terms of the health, whether it is in terms of other parameters. Okay. And last is reboot. As I already told, there are already a lot of things happening to boost up the HR processes, which in some organizations are already there, but even with most of the organizations, it is getting digitalized so that everything can be there at the tip of the finger, even in the HR. So that should be the priority of an organization to talk about that doing this. These are 5 critical actions which I was talking about. So the conclusion, if you see, not take much time. So the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic is gave the human dimension of urgent workforce challenges, which every organization all of a sudden when the COVID lockdown started, and every organization was struggling how to move into this zone and how to get started. That's where they were facing a lot of challenges and which were short term and long term as well. So to get that, there were some different action items like reflect, implement, re-engage, rethink, and reboost. Okay, so that we work towards this, and the 3 principles which I shared about the purpose, potential, and perspective, we might look upon a different opportunity post this, how the new government looks like. Okay, so I'll kind of end the slide and probably open up for the questions. Thank you. I think we have good enough time, 5 minutes, so we can take maximum questions.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Rutuja Pandit. So, thank you, sir, for your inputs. So, sir, my question to you is, what is the importance of digital empathy in employee engagement?
So, so if you see in terms of employee engagement, how so even if you see at your fingertips itself, all these things will be available. Okay, that's how the digital means. Okay, so based on the collection of the data, or based on the collection of your reports, all your data can be there at your hand. Okay, so if you give a real-time example, I was working with GE last year. So with GE Healthcare, because we were into products, so we used to build a lot of products. So a new product which was coming up within the imaging segment. Okay. Every report of an individual, you get it at his home. You don't need to visit a TV to get that done. So there was an imaging system which we were trying to build upon, so that even sitting at your home itself, you can get yourself diagnosed and you can get your reports at fingertips. And based on that approach, probably you might have looked for a surgery or whatever is it, but that was something which we were trying to work upon. If I can answer your question some other way, but yeah. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm doing good, Hari. Thank you for sharing your insights. So my question to you is, according to you, what the HR leaders should adapt for certain times?
Yeah, thank you. So that's a great question. Okay, so please sit down. Okay, so how the HR leaders should adapt to the changes in what you're saying, right? As HR leaders, we have in fact adapted the changes. In fact, in a lot of places, if you see, we are trying to get equipped digitally and also getting tech savvy so that we are there well connected with the employees who are working in our organization. Also, we are trying to make sure that they maintain an equal balance between their work and their lifestyle because even if you see nowadays there's a lot of empathy and work-life balance. Okay? And that's also one of our major motto and of course with Tata, I can confidently see that we do that and we really get in touch with the employees and try to do a lot of activities in terms of employee engagement so that they really feel they are at home while they are at work. And because we are adopting those changes, I would say as HR members, and we are ready to hear also every time. If you see, and on an individual level also, if you talk to me, I can say that we are always open for suggestions. Okay, and we don't restrict ourselves from getting suggestions of new things. That's how we always bring in changes also. Be it into getting some new technologies or be it into working behavioral or employee ethics or even getting them making a workplace a better workplace for our employees to live. Anyone else?
So you have a lot of physical hiring and of course virtual hiring was. So physical hiring is sort of engage little more. For example, body language, the aura, and the energy that somebody carries. Some people are not able to teach that when in the virtual hiring. So in your experience, what the number of brand were more in the virtual hiring than physical hiring? That was just my second question to you is, so right now we are completely offline. And usually hope and pray that it remains like this. But whatever new variant comes and then the placement season of us to restart, we hypothetically, what if we have to go online and this batch also appear for some virtual recruitments? So if that happens, anything that you want to continue to ask students with respect to ye to karna, ye to mat karna, because this affects your hiring process.
Yes. Good that you asked. I was expecting this from some student, but because so the answer to your first question, of course, in fact, last year when I was here in the campus for so I did a physical hiring by the way. In the month of November we came here for and you can assume November was not the month where really things were opened up, but still as an organization or as an HR individually also, if you ask me, I preferred always physically, and that's where we chose the physical campus and we came here and where in fact the number of expectations for us was less, but we hired more. That was one of the benefits which happened being in the physical campus. Because of course the body language, the personality, and the other aspects also you really are able to gauge more in a better way rather than in a virtual. Okay. And in virtual kind of environment, we are not able to gauge the lot of aspects of the candidates. Okay. And that's why we prefer, even this year when we started, so now right now we are in a mode of hiring for them, engineering, tech hiring we are doing right now, and the MBA hiring will start, start a bit late. The tech hiring also, most of the colleges we are doing physically. I mean, next 2 months look very packed in my calendar. We are traveling almost to majority of the physical campuses. Wherever it is not possible, we are still doing virtual, but our emphasis is on physical. Now, answering your second question. Yes. So the second one, answering your second question, what would happen if again, things goes, I mean, just was crossed. So, what if, so in that situation, one thing which I can say, because obviously, then again, things were going to be virtual and your basement season will also be virtual. In fact, we were also not left any options that are virtual mode of hiring. That time, probably what I can say probably is from now onwards, keep preparing for that also, so that you are well equipped, I would say, for that situation. Okay, that is only one thing we always try to do, prepare for the worst. So, but then as an individual, what I would recommend being an HR to all of you as a students, that try to work more on your profiles. Okay, profiles in the terms of do a lot of SIP, like somebody was also talking about SIP. Yes, sir, also talked about the SIP process. So even our speakers spoke about that. So SIPs are something which are really important for MBA students. They are PGDs and all. Doesn't matter. Masters. So it's really very important as an individual doing your SIPs and all, because SIP, if I tell you real examples, because I'm standing here in your college, 2 of your SIPs got converted in my team. So from other colleges also, but if I'm standing here, I'm talking about the numbers here. But then that's how it goes. Okay, so you emphasize on what, and as there, I was also talking about, and sir also talked about the digitalization. So emphasize also, you have the time to try to improve on your lot of other skills. There are a lot of skill upliftment is happening. Try to get yourself uplifted through different nurturing yourself with different skills. So yeah, yeah, that's really important, so that you upskill yourself and get acquaintance to newer technologies, newer things, so that could help you while you are presenting yourself in front of the interviewer.
Sometimes just of course, like I said, I have the situation, right? Being at home, we are at home. I think a lot of attention to our less now. I think that is very, very important for us. In physical world, you generally tend to get more and focus. Virtual world, it's okay to be dressed the way you are at home. So, do you really think the student needs to be dressed in a particular fashion if they're actually getting the virtual?
It doesn't matter, but it gives an impression. Okay, so really, I would suggest that while I am interviewing, and I've seen that even while I was interviewing for most of the schools, students were really groomed and dressed up. So that really creates an impression, and it gives a good impact. I'll say one real-time example. I was in Great Lakes. It's one of the schools. I was doing it for a while. So there also last year I went to school. There is only one student who came physically. Most of them were group. So we were doing a hybrid. So we can give the interviews and so there are 3 panels. I and there are 2 of my other colleagues who are taking interviews. In my cabin, all the virtual interviews were taken. Only the last, so I said to the, I got what kind of crowd do you have? I mean, I am at Great Lakes and I don't find good people here itself. So, and that too, we were assessing them on analytics. And I being an analytics, I have worked also in analytics, so I was really, I mean, whatever questions I was doing, they were not able to answer. But the guy who was physically present, he cracked it. Yeah. So I just take example and just giving you. Don't take it that okay, I have to do that, but because he was there, and that too he got injured when playing the football match. The campus is a residential campus, so it was open and the students were there at the hospital, but still they didn't take for granted. This guy only came and he got selected. So that's how it is.
Say, please do this.
So he said, I didn't want to. So I remember his words. He said, I didn't want to miss that opportunity to meet you physically when you are here at the camp.
accepted now.
No, it's already.
So how do you train culture and create the sense of belongingness?
Yeah, good question. So why we do this? We digitally, virtually. We try to keep some kind of. Most of the time when we interact, we try to always see each other. We always emphasize that we should be on video mode rather than on audio mode. Okay. One is sense of connectivity. You can feel and see each other, then we feel connected more. Second thing is also I was talking about earlier also about the lot of connects with different doing activities in terms of employee engagement processes. So those kind of activities really keeps the employees so we lot of events in terms of some kind of. So we used to do in the first project we talk about all the exercises we used to do where we were getting recorded and we used to share them with all of our colleagues and all how many people we made. We used to have a step challenge for a month. Who is the top winner and all. So those kind of events we used to do. So that somewhat the other way we keep them engaged, even if they're at their home, let them participate in some event which is where physically not virtual, so that they get instant ticket and the rewards and information is already there, so that even if they are able to do those things, they are able to get the reward. So that is something we were able to do.
Just from that extension, since you are an organization so if you're looking for some gap from Mr. Sumet just because he belongs to what has been your real-time experience on that?
So practice speaking so actually a lot of hiring in the COVID period. Actually, the people hired over hiring. So we did that, but it has we have some kind of and we have hired a lot of in India, but countries like Japan, also in India and in US. So what happened? What we have seen that in some cases it was like a transactional relations, belonging is part and part the languages and building something data. So we had a struggle, and for that we have last 5 years we have done a lot of changes. Like Sir said, we started doing the engagement. There is more focus on hiring. Now we are more focused on the retention. That's how do you keep them involved, and that is as Sir said. We have also started all the larger organizations, so competitions, then best employee, good employee, then also to make them understand, like some of them are actually speaking, but your education so even to them we have extended all the institutions to employees. So if for example, if on a birthday, our employees used to be delivered to them. So we are trying to do that, but again, actually it's really creating challenges. So
we all develop that. So we make a better world now that digital has become normal. It is important that we have to learn the ropes and to implement it. It's like not everything on its own. So I think that's how we got to do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Your inputs are something we are definitely going to use in future. Now, I would request Shikha ma'am to kindly give her closing remarks. And before I do that, we would like to one more time say thanks to all three of you by way of presenting to a citation. So may I request Dr. Bhagirathi Iyer, our Head of the Department of Digital Marketing Program, to present it to Mr. Ashish Anand. Ashish, sir.
Dr. Mahesh Mandamkar to present it to Mr. Sumet Gupta. Mr. Sumet Gupta, everybody, round of applause. Dr. Varsha Bihare presents it to Mr. Sushant Kumar, please. So Varsha is the one who has headed efforts to make this conference a successful event. Did I cause too much inconvenience if I request you all to please gather here for a group photograph with a citation? Actually, you can join me, Dr. Ma'am, please here. Yeah. Shabna, citation to the guests so that they could all stand over the group picture. Yeah. And I'll also join.
Thank you so much. Bandhan is a part of our branding team and it does go as a good picture is clicked. Good job, Sanma. Thank you.
And
Atharva, yes.
And
Shantanu. Yes. I think probably covered to that.
Okay, so I'm honored and privileged as I stand here to propose the closing remarks. You know, since the time I was sitting here, since the beginning of today's conference, there were many thoughts that were there in my head, that were running in my head, and I'm going to talk about them all. And as our chief guest, Aditya sir, said in the beginning, he said that I'm going to talk from my heart, I'm going to do exactly the same. You know, these 2 years, the last 2 years have taught us many things. The most important and the most foremost being to be able to really appreciate, truly cherish the things that we have, find happiness in choti cheezein, and to truly cherish the relationships that we have. And to rise above, I don't have this, I don't have that, this went wrong. In today's conference, there are many things that have gone right, and a few things that have gone wrong. So things that have gone right is there for everybody to see. Absolutely. And a few things that have gone wrong, the technical glitches in the beginning, so nothing to hide. There are few things that you do not know, and I am going to talk about it now. The citation was supposed to arrive in the beginning, and we were supposed to felicitate our guests right in the beginning. So we had placed the order very much in advance, so they have been made in Bangalore and they have been couriered from Bangalore to Pune. And so we specifically asked the vendor to send it only via Blue Dart because supposedly they are faster than anybody else. And so yes, but these arrived in Pune and for some weird reason they went back and we again called up the vendor and he said, for what reason nobody knows. So we got them late. So that's one thing, a galti, a error. I don't know what it is, but obviously the audience was not aware. And as I stand, I tell you that this is what had happened. And of course, the technical glitches. Now, what happened was we could have done in our capacity. So we did a lot of multiple runs and mock drills. The team sitting here, everybody has worked. In fact, to all my guests, I would like to tell you that there were a lot of discussions between. So when the candle lighting is happening, whether we should take the Ganesh Vandana or the Saraswati Vandana. So everybody said Saraswati Vandana. Okay. So when should we stop the music? Once all the shlokas are over, or once you all take your seats? So we thought, no, once all the shlokas are over, shlok to beech mein nahi khatam karte hain. So we could only do this much, right? And then we could do whatever we could have done in our capacity to ensure that things do fall in place. They did to a great extent. Choti cheezein did not fall in place. If it would have happened 2 साल पहले, maybe we would have felt very bad about it. They have happened after this 2 years of pandemic, the year of the phase of transformation rather. As I stand here, I don't regret, and I'm sure I can say it on behalf of the minister as well. We don't regret things that have gone wrong. We won't really ask our team, ऐसा क्यों नहीं सोचा, वैसा क्यों नहीं सोचा. We would genuinely like to appreciate them for all the effort that they have put in, again I said, under the guidance of Dr. Vishwa Bihari. So each and everybody, all these students who have, worked relentlessly to ensure that this event is what it is. So this is what pandemic has done to us. So stop feeling bad about. So that DDLG का dialogue students help me collect it. बड़े-बड़े शहरों में बातें होती रहती हैं senorita, right? So ये dialogue ही था. But today we have absorbed it in its spirit in our lives. So today we are able to smile over it, take these things in our stride, and then move over. ये मैंने बिल्कुल decide किया था कि मैं बोलूँगी यहाँ पे खड़े होके. But when I was sitting there and I was observing everything happening, and then there were few things that did not happen the way they were supposed to happen, I was asking myself, how do I feel about it? And I was like, it's okay. It's okay. Everybody did whatever they could have done in best of their capacity. And ठीक है. ये ठीक है शायद नहीं लगता 2 साल पहले, but आज की तारीख में ठीक है. On that note, I would really appreciate to give a huge round of applause for our team members. Here is always under the guidance of Dr. Sumet. So for sir, and these wonderful, amazing student volunteers. नाम नहीं ले रही हूँ क्योंकि मैं डरती हूँ किसी का भूल गई तो तुम नाराज हो जाओगे. So I'm not taking names, but yeah, all our student volunteers, our faculty members, Chetan sir who's sitting here, Anil sir, Bhaskar sir who are there behind the curtains taking care of Audi. So yes, a huge round of applause for them. Most importantly, our wonderful guests who took time out of their busy schedule and made themselves available here to come and share their amazing thoughts with us, especially on a Chutti ka din, and especially on a day that was sandwiched between 2 holidays. So thank you so much. We just cannot thank you enough. Each one of you was speaking, I was taking notes because I was aware that I have to propose the closing remarks. So I was like, okay, let me write down my takeaways. For every session I was doing it, but after a while I was so engrossed into just listening to whatever you were saying. Ki mere notes are not fully there, but I would still like to share with everybody. But I have been from these 2-3 hours personally. I'm sure everybody has done that. For yourself, right? You have, right? Students. पूछूंगी क्या सीखा मंडे को तो बताओगे ना? Okay. So what I have done, Dr. Aditya, so talk about. In fact, he opened the session. I wish he would be here. Pandemic has taught us many things. We cannot take things for granted. In fact, that is when I started thinking about it. That yes, we cannot take things for granted, and things that are there to appreciate. Let us appreciate them. 60 minutes का फंडा. That was amazing. In fact, I was like, oh, इसलिए first semester में 60 बच्चे होते हैं division में. maybe 60 is really special. And ask questions. That was important. Ask questions. Ask interesting questions is what sir said. And then sir, you followed it up when you said ask original questions. So ask interesting question is what sir said. An honest confession. I think Athar is aware about it. I don't know whether the rest of you are. Day before yesterday, day before yesterday, our faculty and teaching and non-teaching, they had gone to Panatwadi campus to play cricket. So you had gone somewhere to play cricket. So it is called an Indira Premier League. So they play it every year, wherein the teaching and the non-teaching staff of each campus, they form a team, and some shortlisting happens and cricket tournament होता है. So one of my colleagues who was driving this from our institute, I asked him कि हमें क्यों नहीं बोला the females, कि हमें क्यों नहीं बोला हम भी खेलते. So it was, I was climbing down the ISBS stairs, he was climbing up the stairs, and then I said, how was the match, how did you all play, and it went right, it went wrong. So he said कुछ अच्छी टीम नहीं लग रही थी शायद. Right, you were there, right? So अच्छा नहीं खेले. I'll have more details on that later on, but I said हमें क्यों नहीं बोला? So why did you ask us, like the female faculty? And he had posted a text on the WhatsApp group where he had written that the shortlisting will happen so and so in the venue. So whoever is interested, please give me names and we'll go together. So obviously the males, faculty and non-teaching, they gave their names and they made themselves available. So he said, in my any text, I have never specified that it is only for boys. It's only for males. So if you really wanted to play, you can just come along. Na, मैंने तो कभी बोला ही नहीं कि ये सिर्फ males के लिए. And I'm like, okay. Actually, when sir was saying this, I asked interesting question because he said sometimes so subtly we get into the habit of copying others' behavior that we don't ourselves realize कि ये नहीं copy करना था. So when he was saying about it, this episode or this conversation was going in my head, and wherein I thought that I actually assumed because historically, since the times is IPL, the Premier League, it is being played. We have always seen the males going there and playing, and nobody really asked why not females. Females did not think of themselves कि मना तो नहीं किया, so even we can go and we can play. So I asked myself that what I did. So I realized that what I did was I copied behaviors without being aware of it. So my personal takeaway from his session is, if I copy your behavior consciously, it is still okay. I'm consciously at least aware कि मैं क्या कर रही हूँ. But if I copy your behavior, not being aware of it, is something. It's a trap. I personally do not want to fall prey to it. But it's your take. Maybe it's for you to think, and maybe it's for you to arrive at a conclusion. But I decided that no matter how much I claim to be aware, sometimes you are just not. And the saddest part is you are not even aware that you are not aware. Makes sense. It did, right? Okay. And then Ashish sir talked about blockchain enterprise governance to ecosystem governance. Sir, you talked about asking one original question. Why we need centralized entity was the one original question that was asked, and it led to the whole lot of transformation that took place. The video that you showed on how cryptocurrency works, and the way you presented, it decoded the entire concept of blockchain to us in such a simplified manner. So when you ask, have you heard of blockchain? Have you heard of cryptocurrency? I'm sure we have heard of it. But was utna hi hai, only that much. So we have heard of it, but do we really understand it? I don't know how many of us could really claim that we really understand the concept. So the way you took the section, the way you spoke about the topic, it really simplified and it really made us understand. Acha, ye tha. So that is what your lecture did to us. Mr. Sumet Gupta, sir, you talked about toward new paradigm shift of communication in the digital era. You shared various important stats with us with respect to growth of Indian ad industry, ad spends on different media, and ad spends by different industry, especially with major growth coming from the e-commerce platform. Guys, where you need to pay attention to. So you helped us gain insights on media industry very nicely. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing the SIP competition by business standard. They are going to make sure that we really pull them up, and we really, before they go to their SIP, we really make them understand the importance of it, so that by the end of it, we have some really good, students doing some really good, coming up with some really good project reports, which we can send for the competition that you spoke with us. And last but definitely not the least, Mr. Sushant Kumar talked about the changing landscape of HR post the new normal. Sir did mention that HR is getting more and more tech driven. You talk about redefining organization, driving people transformation and enabling change. The post-COVID challenges that you spoke about, respond, recover, and thrive. Thank you so much for, again, simplifying it for us. You talked about workforce strategies for post-COVID recovery, purpose, potential, and perspective. As I was listening to you again, I was asking myself, hai na hamare paas ye sab kuch, which is purpose, potential, and perspective. I've taken also some personal notes to discuss them with Sumendra sir, just to have a sense of validation that yes, we have the purpose, we have the potential, and we have the perspective. On that note, once again, thank you so much to all our four wonderful guests. I think we can announce the first half of 10th research conference Abhinavan that we probably host every year to be closed, the first half. Yes, I request all the students and faculty members to please remain seated.